All right, hey everybody, and hope everyone's doing good as usual. Definitely, and thank you for watching, of course, as usual as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I definitely welcome you to go ahead and subscribe. And let me know too, if you have any questions or comments or ideas or suggestions at all. And just to help keep things moving forward, my channel is all about like learning and sharing and that sort of thing. So any ideas, let me know. So I think it's great. And I've gotten a lot, so thank you very much for that. Give the video a thumbs up too if you like it as well. Definitely much appreciated. So I came across some other psychics, and I thought it was curious. So this is actually part of how I've been learning. So if you're new to my channel, it's about it's like spiritually or existentially oriented about the reality of the afterlife and the ability to communicate with those that are in it. The rules and how that works to bring some clarity to this field of knowledge, because there's a lot of great psychics out there, a lot of accurate ones, but none of them are 100% right. It's like anything, it's a skill. Some are more accurate than others more often. It can be hit or miss. I'm still learning, and there's definitely a learning curve. And like with anything, like some people are born with natural talents and have that ability, or some don't. But like with singing or art, some people have to develop it. Some people naturally have it. But the great thing is, with spiritual or psychic abilities, is anybody can develop it. So part of my learning process has been to, as I communicate with people in the afterlife and my spiritual guides, and I talk to the angels a lot as well, is to try to find the answers to how things work so I can understand it and share it with everyone, number one, and also bring clarity to the lack of consistency, because there's a lot of great psychics who give different answers to the same question. I don't mean like for psychic readings, but for example, how does this work, or how does this work? So that's the underlying truth I'm trying to find. So I try to watch everything with a very careful eye, and it helps me be able to see and understand things more clearly, and to help others do that too. So once you can see things truthfully, it really everything starts to fall into place, which is great. So I came across these two ladies. They seem nice and they seem great, and they are accurate, but they're not 100% accurate. And some of the things they say are a little bit misleading. So I was trying to watch this and study some of their videos and understand what exactly, to try and put a lens of truth over what they're saying. So that being said, I found some videos that were interesting, and now this is on their website too. They are highly documented, and they have a lot of predictions, which I believe, and I've seen some of their other videos that talk about this, like with 9/11, like they predicted, like they guessed the year. They said either 2001 or 2002, World Trade Center, and that Bin Laden would be involved. Which is pretty amazing. And they said that they've been contacted by the FBI, most likely probably because they've had so many predictions that were close to what happened, which makes sense, because if I was in the FBI and someone was kind of guessing or piecing together information about terror attacks, and I know the FBI had some of this information on file already, so if they're like, how are they getting this information? I'd contact them too. It'd be like, where are you guys getting this info from? So it's cool they can do that and be able to share that information. So well, that being said, let's just watch some of their videos and kind of walk through it. Again, they're not fake at all or frauds or anything like that, but they do send some mixed signals and conflicting information, and Also, well, we'll take a look. We'll kind of walk through that, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here's a excuse me. One of the first videos I came across. This is an old one. This is like 10 or 11 years ago. So they've been doing this like their whole lives, I guess, and have been psychics their whole lives. And so they've been doing this sort of thing too their whole lives, basically. So this is back 10 or 11 years ago when they were on the show with Dick Clark and Mario Lopez, Slater from Saved by the Bell. I don't even know they had a show back then. It's kind of funny together. I don't think I did. But anyways, so So anyways, they are on here talking a little bit about themselves, and then they are constantly like writing while they're talking or scribbling, which is interesting. I'll show you here.
Communicate with other dimensions.
Here we go.
Linda, what are you writing? What are you doing there?
Yes, well, Dick, we're doing automatic. It's a form of channeled writing. We invented it ourselves about 18 years ago. And
so right before this, they were talking about past lives and that sort of thing. Now, and as they were kind of scribbling as they were talking, even while making eye contact, with the guests they were writing. Tyler Henry, he's another famous psychic, and he does something similar. But right here, what they said, this is interesting.
Form of channeled writing. We invented it ourselves about 18 years ago.
So automatic writing and channeled writing, they didn't invent it like they claimed here. They said we invented it about 18 years ago. Automatic writing or spirit writing or channeled writing is several hundred years old. So it goes back like at least 600 or 700 years old ago, I think. So I'm not quite sure what they meant by that, but they didn't invent automatic writing 18 years ago. It's a pretty old form of communicating with the spirit world, and it's been around quite some time. So that maybe they misspoke. I don't know, but it sounds like, it is what it is. So I was kind of confused about their claims about that. Now, again, just to make clear, my goal is not to defraud anybody, but as these things come up, they're important to point out. So like I was saying in the beginning, they're not frauds, actually, and they do have track record that they built up over time. But little things like this, I think, details always make a difference, and it's good to always present a clear and integrated set of information for both credibility and also clarity and simply the truth. So there's another video here that I was watching with that they were in it. This one here. Let me see, which one should I start with? Okay, so in this one, they talk about, let's see, quite a bit of stuff. So just, it's an interview, and they talk about their predictions, and they say on their website, they're the most documented psychics in history. I don't know if that's true or not, because they all say the same thing to a certain degree. If you watch like the other psychics, top psychic in the world, or number one psychic in America. I mean, at some point there's a second place, right? So it's part of advertising and that sort of thing. So all I'm saying is they do seem to, well, they claim to have a documented track record of quite a bit of things. Now, this is the video where they talk about working with the FBI, and that sort of thing, and how they were interviewed and worked with them, and they're not allowed to really talk about that sort of thing, which makes sense. I mean, like I was saying before, I'd be curious too if these two ladies kind of every once in a while manage to predict something. So now, and I'm kind of curious how those conversations went, because there are real quick. So the U.S. government has researched like the field of reality, really. So consciousness and that sort of thing. It goes back decades, and there are people who came forward and wrote about their experiences with things called remote viewing. I would check it out. It's a really fascinating area of interest. It's like astral projection, where you send your consciousness out and you can observe things at a distance, or project yourself, like travel outside your body using the power of your mind to look for things and that sort of thing. Soviet Union used to do this back during the Cold War. It was well known. They explored this sort of thing. And even now, like in China, they're experimenting with like the whole neural link. And so is Elon Musk, the ability to control things using the power of your mind, like shut your TV on and off and things like that. So this whole consciousness technology, it's not anything new, but it's fascinating. So there's a real funny movie I'd recommend. It's called The Men Who Stare at Goats. And it's based on a true story about government operatives. It's done kind of in a comedic fashion. I've read the book too, but then they turned it into a movie, and it's pretty funny, but it's related to that sort of thing. So I'm not surprised that they interviewed him and talked to him about it, because again, these sorts of abilities are real, and can be useful, and with this sort of thing. Now, they did mention things like, so with this sort of information, like I'll show you right here.
Boston Marathon bombings on international radio.
They said they were the only ones to predict the Boston Marathon bombings. So I don't know if that's true, again, if they were the only ones or not, but they talk about it a little bit here. So again, they did have a few key details about the 9/11 attacks, and where that information comes from are people that are in the afterlife who had knowledge of this attack. So I talk about it in other videos, but not all information that's happening 24/7, 100% of the time is available to access by everyone. There's rules, even for things like terrorist attacks, of privacy. So if you're plotting something on your laptop, the angels can't hack your laptop, even if safety is an issue. Believe it or not, there's privacy rules in place. This sort of information has to come from other channels, like channels of information, like people who were once down here that have inside knowledge of it, or things that were done in public that are allowed to be accessed. So believe it or not everything is made available through communication with like spiritual abilities. So
4 different radio shows the year leading up to the attack.
There's one in Boston. There's a plot in Boston.
Yes.
Not sure if it's going to actually occur, but there is one being plotted in Boston.
And nobody paid attention.
It was never a target.
It was
Boston
never,
had never been hit.
It turned out to be one of the FBI's epic fails, because they did not see anything coming. They didn't warn anyone. Obviously didn't care about our predictions.
See, and I was watching this too. Now, again, I think they're accurate sometimes, and some of their claims don't necessarily add up. But like this one, the way it was worded didn't come across very well to me. So they said, they predicted this leading up to that year, and like nobody listened, and it was one of the FBI's biggest failures. Well, and no one listened to our, they said right here, they obviously didn't care about our predictions. That's not fair, because the FBI, I think they do a great job. And of course, it's not perfect. They're not going to catch 100% of every single terror attack that comes through. And they have laws too of privacy too. That they're not allowed, of course they do, to a certain degree or another, but monitor emails and phone calls and stuff like that, and try to protect American interests both at home and abroad as well. So I think they do a great job, and when things do happen, they do a great job of following up. No, they're not perfect, but I think overall, I think they deserve some respect. So I don't think it's fair to say they didn't care about the predictions and they didn't see it coming and it was a massive failure. And, they made it sound like, well, they should have listened to us, But if you listen to what they said here, okay, so there's a terror attack. There's a plot in Boston.
Video shows the year leading up to the attack.
There's one in Boston. There's a plot in Boston.
yes.
Not sure if it's going to actually occur, but there is one being plotted in Boston.
And
So imagine you're the FBI and these ladies contact you and say, hey, either in 2013 or 2014, there's a terrorist attack. It may not happen, though. It may or may not happen. Like, what are they supposed to do with that, to be honest? Like, would you take it seriously? The FBI, operates on facts and names and information. If they provided that, maybe they did. They didn't make it very clear here. But you can't just say, oh, it was a failure and they didn't listen to us and they didn't care about our predictions. That's not much to go on. So they have limited resources. What are they supposed to do if someone says, hey, there may or may not be a terrorist attack in the next two or 3 years in Boston? So you guys might want to pull some agents and start looking into that. Where do you begin? So way too vague. Yes, they did happen in 2013. So there was some truth to what they said. But unless you go to the FBI with facts, then how are they going to prove anything or start researching anything? They need names and locations and details. They can't just go off vague possibility. You can't just they just can't divert their resources to every person who calls in and says, I think, this may or may not happen in the next couple of years. So they have to go on, they have to choose the resource of the information that is most useful, plain and simple, and most detailed, and things they can follow up on. Just like with any detective, trying to solve a police case. So anyways, I thought that was, when it's conveyed, and when you first hear this sort of message, you're like, well, yeah, that's true, they worked with them before. Why didn't they care? And it was such a failure. But when you really listen to the details, it makes sense, So that's probably why. And anyways, I just caught that as I was watching this interview. I thought it was interesting. But I have some other ones that they did predict more accurately. But again, even in a case like that, it's hard to be able to give them information, especially if they already have some of this on file. What do they do with it? It's interesting that they have this info and it comes from secret recordings or investigations by the FBI, and they're like, well, how did you get this information? Or even if it's new to them, they have to be able to act on it. Otherwise it's just as good as any random bit of information. So even though it sounds like, well, yeah, they may have given them information, it really has to be solid of value in order to follow up on. So, but they do have some other good information in this video, but this kind of stood out to me as well. Here's the last video I just kind of want to look at and chat about a little bit. So, there's a different talk show they did a few years ago. So
the healthy skepticism that has to come with this.
I wish it were healthy. It's very often cynicism, not skepticism at all.
Well, I'll tell you why I think the skepticism has a relevant place is that if you say this show's going to run for 10 years, I could say, not if I quit tomorrow.
But
I think there's nothing wrong with skepticism. So even cynicism really is kind of a form of skepticism, meaning skepticism, I think, is a little bit more healthy, though, because it opens up the possibility for exploration and questioning, and I think that's important, kind of like with what I'm doing here. So that's what they were kind of talking about at the beginning here. Let's see.
Fluid. It's never written in. You can't. Yeah. You're much more powerful than you think.
They're talking about the possibility of, changing your own future.
You turn this off, or is it?
Oh, here's an.
Can you turn this off, or is it just a constant flow of information?
Well, for the average psychic, it has to hit you like a bolt from the blue. With us, we're like a radio. We turn it on, turn it off whenever we want.
But we're hypervigilant. We're always vulnerable to impressions. And so it's very hard to sleep. We have psychic dreams. It's almost as if we can't turn it off sometimes.
And you
So, I was kind of confused when I heard that, because here's what I mean by mixed messages or lack of clarity. Because he asked, can you turn it off? And she was like, well, for the average psychic, it has to hit them like out of the blue. I don't know where they get that information. But she was like, but for us, we can turn it off and on. Just seeing this and some of their other videos, I think they're a little bit overconfident in what they do, the way they speak to things. No one cared about our predictions, or we invented this, when they didn't really invent automatic writing. And, average psychics, they have to do it this way, but we can turn it on and off. And I'm like, well, it sounds like there's a little bit of ego that might be at play here. And there's two of them, so there's twice as much. So, but she says, average psychic has to just let it come to them, but we can turn it off and on. And then her sister immediately says, well, we can't turn it off and on. So I don't know what the answer is, but here's the best answer. It's different for everybody. Some can turn it off and on. Some can't. I've seen other psychics kind of explain their experience before about that sort of thing. I can't turn it off, and it's really distracting. That's my experience the more I started practicing this. So now, there's a new type of practice that I'm doing, where I'm trying to still everything into silence once again. And because there's just an ever-present and active field of non-physical energy and physical energy too, that's just at play, that we are in and of all the time. And the more you become aware of it, at least for me, it's some can tune into this sort of thing and in and out and clarify the messages and information they're hearing and seeing. I'm still getting there. I'm not 100% accurate sometimes. And sometimes, instead of tuning into one or two radio stations, I hear them all at the same time, and it's confusing. So for me anyways, that's my experience. So anyways, I just thought that was funny, that they were just kind of contradicting each other there. But
You have very vivid dreams.
Yes, you do.
In fact, you travel. You do astral travel in your dreams. You go places.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that.
Go with me, Jeff.
Yeah,
I am with you. I am with you.
Yeah.
It's the
astral travel I mentioned earlier is really cool. So it's if you haven't heard about it, it's an interesting field of knowledge to explore. Definitely.
interviewer in me now. If I were getting a reading, here's another question I have. I like that you guys are open to this back and forth. Here's another question. Here in California on Ventura Boulevard, there are psychic stores, shops.
They're gypsies.
Psychic gypsies.
They're not psychics.
Yeah. They
So
haven't
what's the
proven.
difference?
They haven't proven.
They're
it.
fakes.
Most psychics are fakes. We hate to tell you.
Find somebody who has the hundreds of world predictions that we have on tape, proof.
We've got an indisputable.
And I'll tell you a real psychic.
Okay. So, a little bit of ego play there again. I took that the wrong way too. Most psychics are fakes. I completely disagree. So with anything out there, I ask my guides a lot too, is this person the real deal? Is this person the real deal? I actually haven't come across any where they said no. Not that I can think of. And we talked about a lot. But that's yet, so I'm sure they're out there. Like with anything, there's always people who cheat or, lie or steal. But there's a lot of different ways to use or channel spiritual energy. And there's a lot of people out there who try. And I found it a little bit insulting because they said, find anybody who has our documented history and, of predictions Remember how vague they are sometimes too, even though they're correct. Um, and again, like I said, not every psychic is accurate. Not even them. They weren't even right about accurate automatic writing. And there's other videos of people who had readings by them, and the readings were completely inaccurate. Now, that doesn't mean they're a fraud, and I think they need to realize this as well too. You're not right 100% of the time. And not all their documented predictions are necessarily, they're kind of vague, and open-ended. So I think it's important to clarify this sort of thing. They're basically saying, gypsies and all other psychics are frauds, and they're the real deal. And show anybody who has a track record of documented success. A lot of people do. I've seen a lot of videos with documented success, and people and clients who speak to the accuracy of psychics, and that's how they build up their client base. There's a ton of people out there, so it's not just them. So they think they're like it, and they're not. And not only that, not every psychic is out there writing down and documenting every single thing that they do all the time. It's not a bad idea. Just because they don't doesn't mean they're a fraud. So for them to just say these sorts of things, it's like, give other people a chance. There's a lot of successful people out there, and none of them were 100% accurate. Neither are they. And people like me who are learning this sort of thing, so give everybody a chance and allow people to learn and get to a certain point of success, kind of like they have, before you just go around saying you invented this and that, and we most psychics are frauds, and contradicting yourselves in the same sentence. It's like, it sends both an off-putting, at least to me, it's off-putting. It's a little bit arrogant and dismissive and short-sighted and a little bit ignorant and unaware to see what they're doing and what they're communicating in a confusing manner, incomplete manner, while kind of elevating themselves above everybody else. And I don't see any real cause to do that sort of thing. I don't know. So anyways, there's a lot more videos of them out there, but I thought it'd be interesting to walk through some of these and just kind of point out what I noticed. Okay, so those are some of the videos, and I went through a few of them. And again, just to make this clear, I know I said it a couple times already, but this is just my opinion, and I think they are successful and have been doing it a long time and are accurate. So my video here was just really to go through and point out what did not make sense to me, for full clarity. And that being said, I think, if you follow them, I think that's great. I've seen a lot of their videos too. Just for myself, those videos, and there's a few more things too that a few clips I didn't go through because it would have made this video a whole lot longer, but that I noticed where there was conflicting information or things that didn't make sense or weren't true. So again, I think, and also how it's presented too, and how things are communicated, and the whole thing about everybody else being a fraud. Most everyone is a fraud. It just there are certain things with their videos that I just didn't take very well, and I didn't think, and I think needed some clarity. But that's just my 2 cents. Not everyone's going to like you in life. Not everyone likes me, whatever. So, but when it comes to this sort of information, the goal of my channel is to be clear and consistent, tie everything together with a thread of truth, because there always is one in everything, and to bring a sense of integrity and clarity to this field of knowledge. And I'm learning as I go again, and I think it's great stuff, and it's exciting to share. Of course, thank you for watching. So, anyways, there you have it. And I've got some more videos coming out, all kinds. I don't even know where to start sometimes. But I do have some more crime, like locating criminal videos that I'd like to keep working on, and things like spiritual or existential truths, and a lot of great conversations I've been having too, as I practice with people in the afterlife. You can talk to anyone you want to, and it's kind of cool. It's like a kind of a motivation to keep going and working on this sort of thing, because anybody, 100% of people, like from Earth, for example, make themselves available to you at all times. And then there's all sorts of spiritual beings and guides and people from other planets. Remember, we're not alone in this universe. So that's kind of cool to think about too. Well, thank you again on that note, and much appreciated for your time, and happy to share this with you if you have any questions or comments again. And thank you for everything, really. Subscribe if you haven't, give it a thumbs up, and please take care. We'll see you in the next video.